Never get that third star. That was a little strange, don't you think? It's a good thing I got a spare NES. Welcome to this week's episode of Retro Repair Tip, guys. I'm Retro Repairman Cody Thomas, and this week we're going to be tearing down the Nintendo Family Computer, taking a look at a couple problems that us Americans have with getting these things to work. The Family Computer, or Famicom for short, was released in Japan in 1983 with 2 attached controllers, a huge variety of attachments like the Famicom disk system, and an expansive, just massive library of games like these right here, both disc and cartridge. Famicom was nothing to joke around with. It was widely successful, going on to port to the NES in America and Europe, Australia, sold all over the world. Nearly 100 million units, if not more, and it was very successful. So what better way to celebrate its 30th anniversary by tearing it open and figuring out how it works? Well, we're going to get to that today here on Retro Repair Tips. All you're going to need for today's teardown is a Phillips screwdriver. Nothing more, nothing less. If you want to do the repairs that are featured today, you're just going to need a soldering iron. You're going to need a 1.5 amp ceramic fuse. And you're going to also need a 7805 5 voltage regulator. The most common misconception with these family computers is that you can use the American NES AC adapter, which is a terrible mistake. Very bad. Very, very bad. The NES has a power board which converts 9 volts AC into 9 volts DC, while the Famicom does not. It takes straight up 9 volt DC. And if you don't give it that, then it's going to explode. That's why most of us have trouble getting these things to work. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get this thing started.
So here we have it, the Famicom. It's pretty neat. It's got its controllers attached. I mean, that was pretty weird for the time. The only question I really have is, why are they so short? I mean, in total they're like 3 feet long, 1 meter. You have to sit pretty close to the TV, and that could really like strain your eyes, I'm pretty sure. But that aside, it's a pretty neat console, and I got this a while back, so let's go ahead and get this thing taken apart. Just start by flipping it over. You notice that there are 6 screws. You just go ahead and start removing those. Once you got those 6 removed, go ahead and start by removing the bottom of the Famicom and setting it aside. We need to get in there to check out all that Japanese Nintendo goodness. As you can see, there are 8 screws in total. There are 4 on the power board, 2 on the cartridge slot, and then 2 at the bottom of the board near the front. Now relax and enjoy the smooth visuals of worthless hand motions, which I didn't prepare when I was recording. Anyways, move on to Warp Zone. Speed increase to 50%. Alright, now that we got those screws out of the way, go ahead and check the controller cords. They're connected to the front of the motherboard, this being the first player, and this bigger one being the second player for the microphone input. Just go ahead and wiggle those out, do whatever you gotta do, persuade them, get them out of there. They just simply lift out. There's a little gateway type plastic piece there in the back that is on the plastic. It's kind of complicated, but at the same time not, so just pick it out and set it to the side. I'll explain how to put it back in later. Just go ahead and set that controller aside, get the next one. You're really doing it. Once again, that little piece, just gotta pull up on it. No big deal. Alright, now this thing is almost ready to be pulled out, but we still got that power switch under there that we need to unscrew. So we're gonna go ahead and get your Phillips screwdriver back out. You see there's two screws, one under the eject mechanism and one just in plain sight. So go ahead and get those two out. Do it super fast. Looks like I was having a little bit of trouble there. Just set those screws aside, like they don't matter, but they really do. They're vital. The vital screw. Just pull it right up. Sometimes a power switch button thing comes out with it too, but whatever, gotta remove it. And take a look at that motherboard. That thing is tiny. Like, that is probably a third of the size of the NES motherboard, so good job, Japan. You really did it. What we're concerned with today is that small power board. This is the first edition of the motherboard, which is simpler. It doesn't have a fuse in between, and yeah, so we'll set that aside for now. We'll get more on that later. Just go ahead and remove the two buttons. It's pretty simple. Just set them aside. This mechanism is pretty easy too. It's just held in by a spring. Literally nothing else holding it in. It would fall out otherwise. So just go ahead and look at that spring right there. Ooh, look at that springy action. We're going to go ahead and remove it from the front. It's kind of hard to see, but just take it right off. There you go. No big deal. It lifts right out. Just go ahead and set that to the side. Next, we're going to be concerned with the button. It just slides back and forth in place. All it is held in by two little tabs. You can see them right there. The easiest way to do this is just push one in from one side, and the other side will come right up after you've got that. Just pop it right on out. Just like it's a thing that pops. Yeah. Alright. Look at that thing. Oof. Go ahead and set it aside. Last thing to remove is this cartridge dust cover flap mechanism, ultra cool cartridge protector slot. Yes. Alright. We're going to need to get that removed, and the best way to go about it, I found, is to just bend it in the middle and pull it from one side, but be very careful. You don't want to warp it. You don't want to break one of the pins. That can be terrible. I mean, it obviously doesn't affect anything like electronically, but you don't want to hurt your Famicom. It's too precious. Now, before we get to that repair, let's go ahead and take a look at it all torn down. Alright, let's get started with this repair. As you may or may not notice, your motherboard might be different from mine. That's because there's two different versions of the Famicom motherboard. One that utilizes a 1.5 amp ceramic fuse and one that does not. I'm going to go ahead and illustrate the differences for you real quick. This is the first motherboard, the one that I'm working with today, and this is the second. Like I mentioned, the only difference is that there's a 1.5 amp ceramic fuse in between the power adapter and the 7805. So more than likely, if you're not getting any power, this is going to be gone too. So go ahead and look under this RF shielding right here. It'll be to the right. Replace it and then continue along with us. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the power board. The main thing you're going to want to focus on here is the 5-volt regulator, the 7805. You'll notice that there's one screw holding it to the RF shielding on the board, and you're going to want to go ahead and remove that screw. Get it out of here. Just get it gone. Gone! It falls all the time. See how small it is. Oh, I dropped it. Let's keep going. Alright, now flip that puppy over on its back, and take a look at the 3 pins that hold the 7805 to the motherboard. You're going to want to take your desoldering iron and go ahead and remove all the solder coating on those. Get it on there nice and good. Make sure you get all that solder off. Ooh, sure is some hot solder. I've burned myself one too many times on these things, so definitely be careful. Had a really bad horror story, in fact, but enough about that. That will be hot, so definitely be careful when you're removing it. Alright, now take your new one. This is an old one that I have that works, but same purpose. Just go buy one from Radio Shack. But just go ahead and stick it through those 3 pins. Those 3 pin holes, I should say. Should slide right in. Give it a little push. There you go. Now you're going to want to line up the hole with the RF shielding hole. Grab that screw that I dropped earlier. Screw that thing back in. To get the power. The Nintendo power. Oh. Alright. Now at this point, you're going to want to have your soldering iron heated up. Unfortunately, I was retarded and I didn't. So I try to fiddle with it with my desoldering iron, but to no avail. So let's go ahead and skip to when I actually got it right. Make sure that you coat those pins properly, that none of them are bridging any other components, and that they get a solid connection, because there's going to be a lot of power going through there, and you want to make sure that everything's right, so you can at least eliminate this if something else is going wrong afterwards. Get those pins coated. Get them! Alright, and that's it, man. You got it. With that thing, that's the main issue with power that I see here in America. Never use your NES AC adapter again, and you should be golden. Begin rapid reassembly montage!
That's all for this week's episode of Retro Repair Tips. I'm the Retro Repairman, Cody Thomas, and I hope you learned a little bit about the Famicom this week. It's definitely a very successful console. Happy 30th birthday, buddy. And congratulations for Nintendo having such a successful console that spawned this amazing lifestyle that I live. So, thanks Nintendo. And thank you guys for watching. As always, leave me some feedback. Tell me how I'm doing. Comments, any requests, anything like that, guys. See you next time.
Oh man, it's still broken?